Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Booking a Better Wrestler, the show where we take one wrestler from WWE's roster and see if we could do a better job with him than is currently being done. My name is Paul Laporte. Thank you so much for joining me, and normally on Booking a Better Wrestler, we like to take a look at guys who are either just debuting or people who are on the undercard that should be kind of brought up more into the mid-card scene, but we haven't done what we're going to be doing kind of all this week, and that is taking a look at people who are at the top of the card currently. Now, you can certainly argue that these guys don't necessarily need to be booked any better than they are, but I argue that just because they're booked strongly doesn't necessarily mean that they're being booked well, and it certainly doesn't mean that they can't be booked better. So the first subject we're going to be looking at in this kind of special top of the card week is going to be none other than Roman Reigns. Now, I got a request from a friend of mine to book Roman Reigns in a way that will get him over between the end of the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Now, I could take the easy route and just give him a full heel turn, but I feel like that's just kind of cheating. So I'm going to kind of find a middle ground here, and hopefully people are going to be pleased with the results. Okay, so in order to do this, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do here at Booking a Better Wrestler, and I am going to take a mulligan on this past Monday's Raw. I want to kind of go back and do last Monday's Raw over. Normally I only book from the present forward, but I want to go back to this past Monday just because it helps tie things together a little bit easier. Okay, so we start off with Monday Night Raw. Triple H comes out to gloat and celebrate his title win, and as he's cutting the promo, in through the crowd, wearing street clothes, comes Roman Reigns. He ambushes Triple H, beats his ass until the League of Nations comes out to help him, and instead of what would normally happen at this point, of Roman just kind of beating them all up by himself, he bails out and he leaves through the crowd. Now, cut to later in the night, backstage, Dean Ambrose runs into Roman Reigns. He kind of pats him on the shoulder and tells him, good job catching Triple H off guard tonight. And Roman smiles and he says, thanks, Dean. And then immediately attacks him. Just beats his ass, throws him into equipment backstage, just lays him out, and then walks off. Later on in the night, after their tag match with the New Day, the Usos confront Roman Reigns backstage. They approach him, they ask him, hey man, what's your problem? And before they can even get the words out, Roman Reigns attacks them. He grabs a chair or some other weapon lying around, assaults them, lays them both out, just catches them completely off guard, and again, just walks off. Towards the end of the night, Roman Reigns comes out and cuts a promo saying that, it looks like the authorities won. Triple H has the championship after months of trying to get the belt off of Roman and to keep it off of him. He sarcastically congratulates Triple H on his win, and he says that he knows that he's not going to get his title shot at WrestleMania, and maybe he's never going to get another title shot again, but he's going to make sure that until he does, he makes Triple H's life a complete and total living hell. From there in the promo, he moves on to talk about his so-called family. He says that he can't count the number of times that he's been ambushed, cheated out of matches, cheated out of either winning the title or retaining the title, and every time that he was being attacked, his friends, his supposed family, were nowhere to be found. And that's the reason that he ambushed them this night, and that's the reason that he doesn't need them anymore. And then finally, he goes on to mention another thing he doesn't need, which is each and every one of the fans. He says that he was so concerned for so long about being loved and cheered by the fans, but for the life of him, he can't think of why. And he realizes that he's gotten soft. He's relied too much on others, and he's suffered because of it. And from now on, he's only concerned about one person, himself. He drops the mic and walks away. And from this point on, that is the only promo he cuts. He doesn't come out to cut promos. If an interviewer tries to corner him backstage, he just walks off. We're trying to take away Roman's weakest spot, which is clearly work on the microphone. We're doing a sort of heel turn in that he's turning on the fans and he's turning on his quote-unquote family, but he still has beef with Triple H. Basically, he is just against everybody. Now, also what we're going to change up is not just the fact that he's not going to cut promos anymore, but we're going to change up his style. His style both in the ring and with what he's wearing. From now on, he's not going to wrestle with the vest on. He's not going to have the big Roman Reigns logo. Part of his problem is that he so clearly feels like he's just a marketing tool. Like, people are just pushing him on us with his logos and his catchphrases and his t-shirts, and people see that and they reject it, and because of that, we're going to take all of that away. He is not going to wear a single article of clothing with a Roman Reigns logo on it. The announcers aren't going to use his previous catchphrases, neither is Roman, because he's not talking anymore. And despite his character literally now being one versus all, no one's ever going to actually say it. They need to show some restraint here and just let the work speak for itself. We're also going to change up how Roman Reigns works in the ring a little bit. Don't really need to do anything with his moveset, but what's going to be important is that he's not going to have those little call-outs to the fans. He's not going to do the ooh when he goes for the spear. He's not going to cock his fist when he goes for the Superman punch. He's just going to do those moves. He's not playing up to the audience anymore. He's doing these things because he just wants to beat a guy up and win a match. That's also important in kind of taking away the idea that he's pandering to folks. The following week on Raw, or we could do it later on in the week on SmackDown if you want, Triple H comes out and he tries to goad Roman Reigns into showing his face, but Roman just doesn't show up. Instead, Dean Ambrose comes out. Dean Ambrose cuts a promo on Roman Reigns, saying that Reigns was like a brother to him and stabbed him in the back, just like the last guy he felt was a brother, Seth Rollins, and he wants revenge. Triple H is, at this point, kind of annoyed that things aren't going his way, so he agrees to put Ambrose in a match against Roman Reigns at Fastlane, but he's gonna have to put his IC title on the line. Triple H, in this same promo, also announces that he himself is not going to defend his World Heavyweight Championship at Fastlane, but he sets up a number one contender match of Bray Wyatt versus Brock Lesnar, and it's going to be a no disqualification match, obviously tilting things in favor of the Wyatt family. The announcers speculate at this point that Triple H would rather face all four Wyatts at WrestleMania than one Brock Lesnar. So Fastlane comes and Roman faces off with Dean Ambrose, and the match starts off with a stare down, Dean screaming at Roman Reigns for betraying him, and Roman Reigns just stares back at him stone-faced, and then they start to brawl. And this match is going to be a back-and-forth match, very similar to their Survivor Series match, but with a bit of a harder edge, and Roman, once again, is going to get the win over Dean Ambrose and get the IC title from him. He moves to Dean Ambrose's fallen body and says to him with the camera picking it up, so it's not on a microphone, it's just being picked up by the camera, "You could never get the job done against me, Dean." And then he leaves. The Fastlane main event is Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is going to end up doing very well in this match, getting the advantage with the help of his family over Brock Lesnar until Roman Reigns comes out through the crowd, clears out Harper, Rowan, and Strowman with the chair, and then after the assault, Roman grabs a cameraman and says into the camera, "Send me a postcard from Suplex City, Hunter," and then walks to the back. Brock Lesnar gets the win over Bray Wyatt with an F5. Triple H punishes Roman for his interference by setting up a fatal four-way ladder match at WrestleMania, which is Reigns versus Ambrose versus Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles. The build-up to this match is going to be handled by all the other men involved in terms of mic work. It's going to be handled by Owens and Ambrose and AJ. Roman, meanwhile, is just going to be kind of hanging out in the background. He's going to come out to observe their matches. He's going to scout them, but he's not going to say a word. He's just going to watch and study and prepare. The ladder match itself at WrestleMania should be a barn burner. Obviously, I can't book how well these guys can put on a match, but those four, I'm pretty sure, could put up a pretty good bout. And then finally, AJ Styles will get the win. He will beat the other three and take his first title in WWE without Roman Reigns actually having to take a pin loss for it. And then, as a side note in the main event, Brock Lesnar going to just completely wreck Triple H, run him through, and win back the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this is just a very loose guide of how I would book Roman between now and then. I kind of don't want to really get into drawing it out with booking like every single week leading up to then, because I think just changing a few key things is the difference to making him someone who the people just don't want to see, who's getting that fabled X-Pac heat. You know, they're not booing him because he's a good guy or a bad guy. They're booing him because they don't want to see him on television. And I think the key to getting him over, whether it's as a face or as a heel, is to make the fans feel like they're cheering for him, not because they're being told to, but because they want to. They need to let Roman Reigns be a character who's interacting with the things going on around him in WWE, instead of everybody feeling like the entire booking of the show revolves around Roman Reigns. Take him out of the main event scene for a while, let him build back up into it under this one versus all persona, where he doesn't want anything to do with the faces or the heels, and I think that these things will make great steps in getting him back on track with the fans. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Booking a Better Wrestler. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe at the YouTube page. Trying to get to 50 subscribers, just slowly working our way along towards there. Also, be sure to share this with your friends. Just spread the word if you like what you're seeing so far. If you want to leave any feedback, you can send us an email at changingthequestions@gmail.com. You can also send us a message on Twitter at ChangingTheQs, which is at ChangingTheQS, or you can send us a message on Facebook. Just search for Changing the Questions on there. Also, if you want to listen to our flagship show, Changing the Questions, in podcast form, you can search for that on iTunes. Just Changing the Questions is available right now as a podcast, just because of kind of bandwidth issues, though we may change that in the future. That's what we're going with right now. Also, be sure to check out some of our other content. If you haven't done so already, I did a fairly entertaining, because of how angry I got, recap of the Royal Rumble show. We've also debuted a new segment this week called Time Warp, where we take a professional wrestler and see how they would do in an era outside of their own. And that's going to wrap it up. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.